Well, hey, welcome everybody to another exciting episode of Tech Tip Tuesday. I had to add that exciting in there. My name's Ken Close. I'll be your host today, and we will be talking about all things Healy, all things techie, all things quantum. My background is as an engineer in the technical world that I've lived in all my life, but I've been with Healy for the last 150 years, I mean 5 years, and I'm loving every minute of it. When we're in Healy, time is not relevant, by the way. It is ever present, forward, backward, and everywhere. I'm delighted to be joined by my co-host, amazing Jake Barron. Hello, Jake. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Well, Ken, I'm actually a very young 160 years old, thanks to my Healy device that I use almost every day.
Right? The biological age clock just goes backwards when you're using Healy. I love that. So,
Yeah.
I'm also joined by Henry Pena. He's our global head of onboarding. Welcome, Henry. How are you?
I'm doing excellent, Ken. Thank you so much. Welcome, everybody.
Awesome. Well, these guys are awesome to have on this call. I love having you guys. We've got corporate representation here. So any questions you guys come up with, any kind of things that you're having struggles with in the field, I think we can solve them right here on this call, and we have so many times in the past. So definitely bring your hard stuff. You can bring your easy stuff too, but that's okay. So what we can do is we talk about all the technical stuff, okay, guys? The apps, the systems, the theories, the concepts, the science, even the how-tos. What we can't do is we can't treat, diagnose, prevent, or even actually advise on things around diseases or conditions within the body. So, but we have resources we can point you to for solutions like that. There's an amazing database within Healy, within the ecosystem of Healy about various conditions that we can find answers to. So, if that sounds fun to all you guys, let's light up the chat, throw your questions in there, and let's get this party started. How about that?
That's great.
Let's do
All
it.
right. And Laura is saying aloha. I bet you that's somewhere in Hawaii. Just a hint, just a guess. But greetings, Laura. Thank you for being here. Okay, everybody got your Healy running? Good. All right. So, and if you guys don't put any questions in there, we're going to talk about stuff anyway. So maybe you'll stimulate some questions. So Marjorie's got something here right off the bat. Thanks for joining us. She says, when using the Healy with the coil, is it best to do so or to do all programs at 100? That's the intensity level, folks. Since it's just going into your information field. So I love this question as far as, intensity. People ask questions about that a lot. And the interesting thing about when it comes to the coil, it is generating a magnetic field. Okay, so everybody who is not familiar with the coil, this is the Healy coil. It connects to the Healy hardware and it converts the microcurrent, right? Microcurrent clips right in there like so, converts the microcurrent into a magnetic signal that essentially is actually two distinct magnetic fields at once. They're 180 degrees out of phase from each other, one going kind of when you wear the Healy like this, so the field is kind of going out this way forward in a global kind of configuration, and then backwards too. So you're kind of in the middle of this, what's called a 0 point field, magnetic fields, one front, one and back engulfed, and the frequencies are in there just for you, right? So what intensity do you use? Well, when it comes to converting microcurrent or any kind of current flow into a magnetic field, it's done when it's done through a coil. The higher the amplitude of current, or in other words, the more amps that you run into that coil, the greater the field. Okay, it does expand. But know that the coil is designed to be about a meter in diameter, about 3 feet diameter, right? That's what it's called, its maximum or optimized range. Doesn't mean it stops right there. It goes on infinitely forever. Just the amplitude goes down as it goes further and further away from the actual epicenter of the coil, right? The coil itself. As it goes further away, it gets lower power. So cranking up that power to 100%, there's nothing wrong with that. Feel into your body, but also know it's going to pull a little bit more power from the battery. That's, that's just normal. The more amps you put into something, the more power you put into something, the more it takes away from the power supply, aka battery. So, is it good, bad, the other? It's not good or bad. It's just what you feel is good for you, and what you can tolerate. Now, know that you may feel things in your body, and that's normal. Sometimes those feelings are not positive because there's a detox or an elimination process going on because you're running something around digest all food, right? Right? What happens when you digest your food? Where's it go? Bye-bye, eventually. So you may get some experiences that you're going, wow, I'm not used to that. So anyway, so that's kind of the ins and outs about that. Guys, Henry, you want to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with the last thing that you said about tolerance and understanding that this is when it comes to Healy, a lot of it is going to be personal preference because everybody's body is different. So you need to that's why the setting is there. We don't just leave it 20% or 100% for everybody. We have that really decent range of intensity for you to adjust it based on your personal needs. Now with the coil, it becomes less noticeable. I know that when you use microcurrent, whether you're using the adhesive electrodes or the wristbands, it becomes kind of obvious when you start feeling that tingling sensation. If you have your Healy, for example, set to high current and you go past 50, 70, and even then it will vary, which is why, again, this will be very different from one person to another. With the coil, even though it's less noticeable, I have witnessed people using the Healy coil and actually feeling something to the point that they have said, no, you know what, I need to keep it at a low intensity because if I go higher than that, it makes me feel a certain degree of discomfort. So if you're able to use it at 100%, you might as well use it because as Ken said, is all it's going to do is amplify that range, that magnetic field that is being created. But if you find that that's too high for you, you're welcome to lower it. I would say that the majority of people won't necessarily have a problem with having the Healy coil at 100%, but it's ultimately your decision, and nothing bad's really gonna happen if you have it set to 100%.
100% agree.
Yeah,
Uh,
and yeah, actually, because when we're talking about the Healy coil, there is an official recommendation in the Healy app manual. So when you go there and you'll see, one of the last pages in the manual, page 47 of 48 in the Healy app manual, there's a section on the Healy coil, and it talks a little bit about what it does here too. We're talking, as Ken and Henry already mentioned, when we're talking about these two fields that cancel each other out, and then we're creating quantum potential frequencies that are then transferred to the bioenergetic field. But you'll see at the last section here, they're designed to be used at a 30 to 100% intensity. So yeah, is there going to be anything wrong at 100%? No. You have to run them at 100%? No. It's really, again, it's a huge range because it's up to you of what you feel most comfortable with as well. 30%, this is something that you want to start at least 30, but anything above that, whatever works best for you is perfectly fine. So just because maybe you don't feel the intensity as much because you're not getting any sort of sensation related to microcurrent when you're using the coil, doesn't mean you have to run it all the way at 100% either to get benefits out of it. So
I love that. And the to the effect of that there's some follow-up information or follow-up here that Mary's saying that with the coil, when you've got the coil in and you're watching the app and you see the consistent waveform of current flow, right? Then there's more consistency there perhaps because now when I'm talking about the waveform is on the app itself. When you're monitoring the app, you're going to see the frequencies being transmitted, and you're also going to be seeing a waveform going across the screen representing that there is flow out of the Healy into whatever the Healy is connected to, coil or body, right? With the electrodes, it's connected to the body. Coil is connected to the magnetic coils. And there's current flow, literally current flow, like plugging a extension cord in the wall and then current flow through the cord into a light bulb, right? So there's current flow, amps, voltage going through there, measured in, we can measure it in all kinds of ways, watts. But when there is current flow, there's a magnetic emission, and there's energy moving from one point to another through a load. When you're connected with these wristbands, you're essentially like the light bulb in that equation. Do you follow me? And the Healy is the power source, and it's running it through a circuit that must be complete, right? It must be complete, it must have a beginning all the way through to the end, a full circle cycle. And so you are part of that equation. And when the current doesn't flow through you as the equation, then that waveform across the screen on the app stops and says, even though there's frequencies being transmitted, there's no current flow in the in you in the load. And so with the coil though, you'll notice that for the most part, kind of almost wherever you are in the intensity level, you still see a good flow. So even at the lower, but as Jake mentioned, we want to be 30 to 100% intensity to maximize that output of the coil. And you'll probably see very consistently across the board that it will have a flow. There will be no time in which it says current flow or frequencies are being transmitted, but no current flow. Very rarely. Why? Because the coil is a consistent entity, right? It's literally a coil of copper conduction. There's two of them inside this printed circuit board. This green part of it is a what we call a PCB in the technical world, printed circuit board. Okay, really hard PCB. And inside there is what we call traces. It's basically like a wire, and there's two of them stacked on top of each other, and they correspond to the pins here in the coil. Each pin represents one side of the circuit. The other pin represents the other side of the circuit. So as if it were on you, left arm would be one side, right arm would be the other side of the circuit. Same thing here. And so there's no doubt about what kind of electrical conduction this has. Unless you break it somehow, it's pretty consistent in its electrical form. But you as a body now, on the other hand, is quite different in the consistency of your electrical representation to the circuit. Dry skin, poor conduction from the electrodes, dehydration, low mineral content in the body, all kinds of things reduce your conductivity, meaning that when the Healy is trying to send that signal through the body, it could be broken up based on different frequencies, and you'll get that sign that message that says even though there's frequencies being transmitted, no current flow. Does that make sense? So this is why you'll see variations between using your Healy with the coil and using the Healy with the electrodes when it comes to that message. Very distinct differences there. All right, guys. Okay.
Perfect.
All right. So here's a question here. Um, let's see. Thank you for this very important meetings. Hey, you're welcome. We're here because of you guys. Now what about with the other Healy devices in terms of intensity? So other Healy devices such as the MagHealy, you mean? I mean, there is a chart actually that's really great that shows intensity recommendations using the MagHealy, right? Based on what program you're running. We've had that up on the screen before. That's within the owner's manual or the usage literature. There's, and when it comes to say the HighWave, right? The HighWave, there is some intensity levels necessary to get the HighWave to function. And Henry did an amazing job of going over the details, kind of showing by the little light that's on here, how it changes based on the intensity levels that you're putting out on from the app. It changes. You'll know when it's working when the light is giving you a certain indication. Henry did an amazing training on this, by the way, guys. Maybe we can get the link to that in the chat. and you guys can see what that's like. And then also there's the owner's manual. Jake, do you have that um, owner's manual about the intensities of the MagHealy?
I can pull that one up. Yeah. But as you mentioned, HighWave actually isn't. I don't think it's been incorporated yet into the newest version. I know it's being worked on. There was some that's going to be a future one of the soon updates as well. You'll have the HighWave information as far as the intensity and the different light patterns and stuff available in there. But yeah, for MagHealy 2, I'll pull that up here in a minute and we can show where exactly to go for that. But yeah, then when you're talking though, like just the Healy with the microcurrent, that one is really 100% up to you as far as the intensity goes there.
Yeah, and like I said, Henry did a great job giving a demonstration about the high wave and the indicators on the lights, and it's pretty straightforward. It really is. I love that the way it works. So uh, anyway, so let's see. Next question. Is that polarizing on both wristbands? Um, so polarizing, so Mary's asking about polarizing, and let me just kind of talk about polarizing for a second. Polarizing is like, like a north and a south pole or a positive and a negative. Essentially, it's the way that things flow, right? You can, there's electron flow that moves one direction. And same thing with magnetic waves. Magnetic waves are transmitted north and south. When it comes to the Healy coil, there's actually two wave patterns that move. Basically, if you look at the Healy coil like this, those coils are like this, right? So you're seeing these waves that come out. You can't see them, but there are waves that come out forward and backward like this, kind of, or if we're putting it in this orientation. When it's on your body, it's probably in this orientation, right? So the waves move forward towards the front of your body and backward toward the back of your body in a spherical, almost, it's spherical, but almost cone shape outward. Anyway, the uh, you do have a north and a south flow of that, um, and they are put in 180 degrees out of phase on purpose so that you're in this 0 point space, you as the body. It's kind of like I liken it to being in a comfy little magnetic bubble, right? I'm in this protective little zone, and then all the Healy frequencies from the program I'm running are are in in the middle of me, right? So, um, but when you run the current flow, you'll notice on the Healy guys, on the front of your Healys, you'll have a plus and a minus, right? So just like the polarization we're talking about, like on a battery, you have a plus and a minus. Like in magnetic fields, you have a north and a south. Well, the plus and the minus gives the opportunity for Healy to recommend a direction of flow. If a particular program has relevance in direction of flow, say positive on left and negative on right, positive on left hand, negative on right hand. If that were relevant, it would be stated in the program itself, in the app. And if you'll notice, when you go through all those different programs, you'll see that the polarization is not relevant. So you can have any way you want, it's still going to work. Okay. But this gives Healy the opportunity down the road, right? If there are programs that are very significant to direction of flow, they can indicate that. Does that make sense? So yeah, I love that question. Good job. Okay, next one, Maria.
Before we go, I just wanted to share real quick the MagHealy intensity recommendations that we were just talking
Yeah,
about there too. So as Ken mentioned, in the MagHealy app manual, you just for every single program listed there, there's recommendations. So for the MagHealy Classic section, so the very first application there, you'll see there's a wide range here, 70 to 100, only 5 to 15. Most people probably are running these quite a bit higher than that because they're so used to just cranking things up to a higher intensity where it's really not needed, especially for these ones that are related to head harmony, positive mood, sort of the mental health type programs there as well. You don't need a whole lot of intensity there when you're talking about the MagHealy. So you have those, and then of course, if you keep going down here, the water application, those are all by default 100%. There's no real reason to do anything less than that for those. And then atmosphere, there's a range, 30 to 100%. Maybe if you're right next to the MagHealy and you're running the atmosphere, maybe you don't need to run it at 100. Maybe you can do it a little bit lower, and you want to conserve the battery too, because the higher the intensity, the quicker the battery will be depleted as well. But maybe if you're in a large room and there's a bunch of people surrounding the MagHealy, maybe then you're running this at 100% when you're talking about an atmosphere program there too. And then McMakin programs, big range also, 20 to 100%. This one is really up to you and your own, what you feel most comfortable with for these different programs as far as the intensity. And then also same thing with the new McMakin Plus, 20 to 100% is the recommended intensity range too. And McMakin Plus, for anyone that's not aware, these are the programs that come exclusively with the new MagHealy Obsidian that was just launched a couple weeks ago now.
Yeah, this is a great guide, you guys see. There's really no question, is there? Very in depth, very precise. And as I always recommend, and you just heard Henry say it too, listen to your body, right? This is the thing that we need to pay attention to. And I mean, guys, sorry, I mean, most of the masculine doesn't really pay as close attention as the feminine out there. I mean, those guys are just like, hey, crank it up, let's go full blast, boom, no pain, no gain. Well, that's not really that's not really the new model of healing. It is subtle. There are subtle fields, and if we pay close attention, you may find that like later in the day, you get some kind of feeling in the body, like even if it's just an emotional outburst, and in the masculine, a lot of times we suppress that, right? And we don't allow that to flow. And I'm just going to encourage any of the men out there, I'm just going to encourage you to let these emotions have their moment, right? If it's coming up, there's a release that needs to happen. And it may not be convenient. You may be in the middle of a construction project, right? Or you might be driving, or you might be doing some physical thing, right? This is where men tend to live. It's a physical thing. I'm doing. I don't have time for this. But you really need to start figuring out how to make time for this. The masculine has been too long, too much suppressing these feelings. And what happens to an emotion that's suppressed in the body? It becomes a disorder. It becomes a disorder. And what's that mean? Well, any kind of disorder. Oftentimes it winds up being in a signal from the body. And those signals are in ways of pain or disruption or lack of use, atrophy. So, so allow these things. These programs are going to start stimulating some of this stuff, right? This is energetic field. This is the field that once upon a time was normal. Indigenous tribes really, really focused a lot on that spiritual side of the body and the existence. And then somewhere along the line, it just got weeded out, right? Shoved under the rug. And now it's coming back. It's been coming back for a while. And you've been seeing it in like words like biohacking and things like that, where these energy fields are starting to change biological influences. Well, that's what Healy does. And it's really important that we pay close attention to the body, the little tinglies, the little eruptions in emotion. Maybe you feel like laughing for joy. Maybe you feel like crying. Maybe you feel just angry all of a sudden for no reason, no apparent reason. But those are things that are being released. So pay close attention to that, guys and gals. I'm just saying. All right. Um, let's see. We had one here. This is a good one. So Maria's asking, do you try to keep Healy as close as possible when running a resonance program? So let's talk about what resonance programs are. What are those? You're running something into the bioenergetic field. Where's that? Where's the bioenergetic field? It is a field of information. And Einstein talks about this. He talks about the observer effect, where you take waveform meaning all potential, and you solidify it into matter. How do you do that? By looking at it, right? When you look at something, you put your attention there. Where you place your attention is where you place your energy. Okay? So this is what Healy does, is the resonance system places its attention on a particular client. Okay, who's the client? You, or an animal, or a plant, or an organization, or a thing, right? You've got lots of options for creating a client. You create a client in the Heal, Advise, or Analyze app, and then you do an analysis, and then you send those frequencies to that client. Well, let's look at what the client is. When you're setting up a client, there's certain aspects you need to put in the fields: the name, time of place of birth, your date of birth, a picture, gender. That information now narrows the field down from the entire universe to just that client. And so now there's a energetic representation of the client in the app. And then when you do an analysis with the database, whatever database you're using, it then narrows all the possibilities down to 5 particular entities. And then when you apply those 5 particular entities to the client, that's placed in the field. It's energy being transmitted into the field of this person. So the cool thing about that is it's not local and it's not restricted by time. So the true cool thing about this is that you can do it non-local. You don't have to have your Healy anywhere near you when you're running those frequencies into the biogenic field. And the cool thing is you can send it to any other client anywhere in the universe without them being near your Healy. So the cool thing about the resonance system is that it is non-local and it's very precise because it doesn't pertain to any other entity, any other person, any other thing except for that client. Like I said, where you place your attention is where you place your energy, and that's what Healy does. The resonance, it places its attention and all the energy on that one client. Anything you guys want to add to that?
Just expand on the idea that remember that when we're using anything with the Heal, Advise, or Analyze 2 app, we're talking about the information field, which is by nature a global phenomenon. It takes advantage of the interconnectedness of all things. And therefore, it won't really, I mean, the whole concept of quantum entanglement is the idea that you can link two different systems, whether we call it particles, whether we call it humans, animals, intention, spirits, it doesn't matter. You're able to link two different entities or systems regardless of their physical distance, even if they're across different galaxies. And this is not something I'm making up. This is not something I'm making up. This isn't something even from modern science. This is a concept that has already existed for decades, and it has already can be reproduced. There have been Nobel Prize won from this. So I encourage you to look it up, the whole idea of quantum entanglement. And really all Healy is doing is taking advantage of a physical concept that has already been proven, which is that is quantum entanglement, and using this to link intentions, regardless of where you are in the world. The Healy will have the ability, remember what we usually refer to as the technical component inside of the Healy that interacts with people is what's known as a physical noise generator, which ultimately gets in touch with the bioenergetic field of the person. Then it gathers the information from the information field. We're talking emotions, fear, thoughts, memories, the sense of the essence of just being alive, and grabbing all of this very abstract information, which is non-conceptual. What do I mean by non-conceptual? It doesn't have meanings with words or numbers. And then it uses all those databases that you see within the app, all the different databases, the programs databases, the ones from the ARA, the coaching, etc. And what does it do with that data? It gives conceptual meaning. Now we understand that. Now we can read words, look at numbers, look at values, and then we read it, we reflect on it, and we grow. And ultimately, all of this is done remotely once again because of that principle of quantum entanglement. So no matter where you are, you can take advantage of it. You don't need to hold the Healy. You don't need to touch the Healy. Everything can be done remotely.
I love that. And you guys, so Henry mentioned a random noise generator. It's a random noise generator. It is a circuit, right? It is a circuit that actually, in terms of its output, is a kind of a random output. But in the 70s, back in the early 70s, there was an experiment done on how consciousness influences these random outputs. Because consciousness, your thoughts, everyone's thought has energy to it. What I say earlier, where you place your attention is where you place your energy. So if you drop a stone on your foot and you place your attention there, I mean, obviously the body's going to tell you there's pain. And then if you remove the stone, there's your attention, you're removing the stone, and the pain starts to diminish, and over time, it starts to go away. But if you put your attention back on the experience and back on the stone and back on that whole thing, pain comes back, right? It's like it can be amplified. Typically, the nervous system down regulates pain reception within 90 seconds, right? So that the body can start to heal. So your nervous system starts to regulate and protect you. And so, if we're complaining about the pain and we're in the moment of the pain and rehearsing the pain, we're kind of dramatically increasing its influence, and you'll feel it, right? All of a sudden, look at a little kid. A little kid falls down, gets hurt, right? Cries for a second, maybe doesn't cry for a second, but rubs it off, gets up and goes back to playing. But if what we do is like sometimes as an adult, we go, oh my gosh, that person tripped me and it hurts me. And we rehearse it and that pain lasts a lot longer. So again, this observer effect, right? This where we place our attention is where we place our energy. Einstein talks about this. This is part of consciousness. This is our consciousness doing this work. And when we put our conscious attention on anything, it has an influence, and especially on these random generator systems in electronics. So in the 70s, like I said, there was an experiment done with random noise generators that actually worked a robot that would move forward, backward, left, and right. Okay, this cool little robot, forward, backward, left, and right. And when a certain random output came from the generator, it would go forward. A certain output would go backwards. Same with left and right. And they just let this thing go. When it would bump into something, it was in a confined space. Okay, and you can look up this experiment. It was in a confined space, and when it would bump into a wall, it would just turn around and go the other way. And so you could see when it would run without any influence, nobody watching it, just recording it, watching it go. It would just randomly go all over the entire space. Then what the scientists did was they took some little baby chicks, and we hatched them by this robot. And this robot was kind of this yellowish dome looking thing. So maybe it looked like a chicken. I don't know. But they hatched these little chicks by it, and they raised these little chicks for a little bit by this robot. Robot didn't do anything, just sat there. Chicks hanging out. They think this is mama. Okay, so then they take these little chicks, they move them outside the parameter of the barrier, put them behind a clear glass, and then turn the robot on again. And the interesting thing that happened by this robot is this robot only orbited around where the chicks were, just that side of the confined space. So it was like, okay, well, why is this thing only moving around there? These are random generators in here making this robot move electronically, no inputs, no remote control, but yet they're being influenced by consciousness. And so that was part of the experiment. They did it over and over and over again and found that the robot only orbited in the quarter space in which the chicks were hanging out looking at them. Because their intention of this is mama, come here, mama, all right? Those little baby primitive chicks, that little consciousness, all it did was put its attention on the robot. The robot had its attention on the chicks, and it stayed over there. This is the effects that we have on a random generator, right? This is an electronic circuit that is running in digital, basically it's just a digital logic circuit, but consciousness, awareness can influence it. So Healy uses that technology, uses that knowledge and that know-how to actually interface with you. And so this leads into the next question that's up here. It says that when running the Healy, shall we stay away from other healing devices such as PMF, cushions, or any of the infopathy, or any of these other technologies? Okay, put this into perspective here. When you, as a consciousness, right, are putting your attention on the therapy you're in, and Healy is interfacing with all of that, don't you think that's taken into account what you're doing also? Absolutely. So the cool thing about that is that your body can process 400 billion bits of information per second. So now in my center, I have many different modes of healing within the body, and I can run many different frequencies into the body and not worry about the confusing the body. It won't confuse the body. Why? Processes 400 billion bits of information per second, way more than you as an awareness. Let's just put it in perspective for a second. Everybody that's on this call right now, you, me, Henry, Jake, we're looking at each other. We're doing other things in the background. We're answering questions. All this stuff that we're doing, what we hear, taste, smell, touch, everything, even our thoughts, all the stuff we're aware of is 2,000 bits of information per second. 2,000. But yet, our reticular activating system, the main nervous system of our body, is aware of 400 billion. Way out there. There's a lot going on in the background, folks. And the body is the intelligence. So we think we're the intelligence, don't we? Okay. 2,000 bits of information. Do a comparison for a second. 2,000 bits of information. That's your brilliance. That's your genius. And that's great. But the body, 400 billion bits of information per second. A lot more. So it can handle it. It takes all the things that you're involved in right now, all the emotional thoughts, all the conditions in your body, all of the therapies that you might be involved in, takes it all into account, and then finds the resonance of you, all of that, right? And aligns with that. So that being said, remove the therapies and it will be a different frequency influence. Okay? Just understand that. If you want to you want the Healy to interface with the true essence of you as a purity, then don't do anything. I mean, I would even fast. Don't even have any food on board, and then run the Healy and see what happens. Run those analysis, and you'll see some variances. Okay. All right. So Henry put the HighWave training in the chat, you guys. So take a look at that. If you want to save this chat, there's three little dots up there at the top of your chat box where it says Healy Tech Tip Tuesday. Three little dots. Tap on those. A drop-down menu comes in. You can click on Save Chat. At the end of our call, if you're on your PC or your laptop, there'll be a spot you can save this chat. So that'll all be there. Okay, guys? Okay. So each cell has a positive and negative, Mary says. Yeah, each cell is a voltage, cell membrane voltage, right? The cell membrane has a specific voltage, and it's actually a negative voltage, by the way. And so we can, and the way that things move in and out of a cell membrane is through voltage influence. The exterior positive and the interior negative, and some influences through there. So Healy does influence that cell membrane voltage to move it to an optimal state. All right. Okay, so Marjorie says, I would love to have a HighWave, but all three of my devices don't have metal clip. You talked about this last week. Would it work for me to buy a HighWave and then use like use a rubber band or something to secure my Healy to the HighWave? So, you know, we did talk about that, and I kind of gave you some physical aspects of what that looks like. And could you connect the Healy without a clip to the HighWave? And you can. It just, you know, I mean, it's not what Healy's recommending, but from my perspective, this is an engineering perspective. I look at the design, the physics of the design, okay? And there's a reason that clip is on the back side there, is to go into that slot and hold it. But if you were, again, careful and you secured that, again, remember, let's just say you run a rubber band around that. These contact posts here need to be on your skin. And if there's a rubber band in the way, it's not going to help that much. You can, if you ran it the other direction, lengthwise this way, you know, okay. But the most important part is that there's no stress factor trying to spread these apart. See this, what I'm doing right now? I'm going to show you something. I'm going to get this little tab out of the way. I don't have a clip on my Healy going down into the slot. And you can see how easily, look at the stress factor I can apply to this. This is me moving the Healy off of the HighWave. That puts a tremendous amount of stress right here where these pins connect into your Healy. Tremendous amount of stress on the cabinet or the casing of the HighWave. That's why it's not recommended But again, these are your choices. It will work electronically. Just we're talking about the mechanics and the structural integrity. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. That was, yes, it's possible, but just, you have to be really, really careful if you use it that way to make sure that you don't, of course, your Healy, if it's missing a clip, that's one thing, but you don't want to possibly ruin your brand new HighWave as well. So yeah, it's just something to be really extra careful of if you do get a Hive. And yeah, I think it's for me, if I was in that situation, the benefits of the HighWave to me would outweigh that potential risk. I would figure out a way around it for sure. If I wasn't didn't have a Healy with the proper clip, I would kind of try to figure that out. But it's up to you. But yeah, just if you do purchase a HighWave and want to take advantage of those extra programs and be able to run all of your programs, all the IMF programs with the HighWave too, just be careful.
Yeah. So thanks for all the kudos out there, guys. Love the positive comments. Thank you. Mary's saying, by the way, I noticed it easily Coil Healy disconnected from a program running on my phone. How to prevent? So I'm not sure. Okay, so if the app um, is running and it disconnects from your Healy, the blue light goes off or something like that. Okay, so that's a Bluetooth disconnect between the the app and the Healy. Remember, the Bluetooth that Healy uses is what's called BLE or Bluetooth Low Energy. It's a very low amplitude signal, so you can't get very far away between the Healy and the phone, the device you're running. 32 feet is what it is recommended, and that's straight line of sight. So if there's a wall or a room or some separation, even less than that. So it's not very far, by the way. If you go outside and your Healy's inside, good potential that you're going to disconnect via Bluetooth there. But if you're running, say you're running the coil, and you're running a program, again, not sure which way you're saying it's being disconnected. If we're talking about that waveform across the screen of the app, like it's showing you that frequencies are being transmitted, but no current is flowing. If that's the message you're talking about and you have the coil plugged in, you need to make sure you're above that 30% of the output, and you can even increase it more. If it's still not connected and saying that same frequency is being transmitted, but no currents being flowing with the coil on it, I'd be suspicious of some kind of connection problem, right? Normally, that's not the case. I mean, coils work really well. So if there's more you want to know about that, Mary, just add more to the questions here, okay? Okay.
I think the only other thing I want to add is that remember that it is okay if your Healy disconnects from your phone. Like that doesn't mean that the program will stop running. As a matter of fact, I rarely leave the app open because you can see the hertz, the frequency that's being transmitted at that moment and the duration and the bar progressing. But that doesn't really tell me much. All I know is that I want to get the benefits of the program. And I feel like a lot of us feel that way. We run the program to get the benefits from the frequencies. And sometimes looking at the screen can maybe distract you from whatever it is that you're trying to do throughout your day. So what do? I start the program and fully close the app. And even if I were to leave the app open and I start doing something else, if it disconnects, that's okay. You will know that the program will continue running because that green light will still blinking. So as long as that green light is blinking, you're gonna be fine. You don't need to keep your phone connected to the app. And if by any chance this was about the Heal Advisor Analyze 2 app and the Healy disconnecting there, remember that for the most part, we recommend running vibrations for 1 minute and 20 seconds. That's the recommended duration. Now, if you try to run a vibration for 30 minutes or an hour, there is a chance that there may be at a certain point maybe a disconnection issue. But if you follow the guideline of 1 minute and 20 seconds in the Heal Advisor Analyze 2 app, it would be very, very rare for the Healy to disconnect within that time range.
Yeah, there's a reason that's the default number. Right? That's the default setting, guys. Whenever you go to run the vibrate, you'll see minute 20 seconds that's default. All right, so Maria's asking here about saying that the MagHealy Plus night programs, male and female, is amazing. So a little kudos on that program. It runs for a while and the battery power is great. Uh, the question is the battery different in the Obsidian? I don't have any specs on that, but I imagine it's the same battery. Is it?
It's the same. So all the internal components for MagHealy Obsidian versus regular MagHealy are the same. So the outside housing, of course, is different. The charging pad's different, is black as well. But just like the Healy Obsidian internally is the same as the regular Healy device. Same thing with the MagHealy. So if you're talking about battery life, um, I mean, if you're comparing it to another MagHealy, I guess it depends on how old, but yes, over time the battery life isn't as great, which is a normal thing after going through many charge cycles as well. But it could just be that it's a brand new device and you're getting a little bit longer battery life there. But um, I'm wondering, yeah, and referring to the McMakin Plus, we're talking about the Night Harmony male and Night Harmony female programs, which yes, they're great programs too. I'm assuming that the runs for 3 hours or over 3 hours is just in general running multiple programs, because the longest McMakin program is 70, McMakin Plus program is 72 minutes there, which is actually the weight harmony program. But those two night harmony programs are just over 30 minutes long each. But yeah, inside it is, the battery itself is the same. So it wouldn't be, whatever you're doing for the battery life and running the programs would not be related to a different, to the hardware itself. It would be the type of programs that are being run.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Um, let's see. Here's just kind of a follow-up. Marjorie saying, I forgot I had my Healy on when started up my PEMF device. The Healy started rattling, so I removed it.
Oh,
I don't think it would be both to run them both simultaneously again. So your PEMF does put out magnetic energy, and it does have, your Healy has a metal clip. And so if you've got enough power to send that high intensity magnetic signal, you could have some resonance with that clip. Unless you have it, say, in some kind of a case or something too that has metal. Again, it's PEMF is pulse emitted magnetic frequency. It's a pulsed frequency. So if it's pretty powerful, you could get some things. Having an influence on the Healy hardware itself. I mean, the circuitry. Um, yeah, you'd have to be in a, I don't know, maybe an MRI.
yeah,
They won't let you in there with that though.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, we're influenced by the way, folks, we're influenced by magnetic waves all the time. And in some cases, super high intensity magnetic waves, depends on where you are. In some of these, some of these repeater stations and such, power plants, things like that. There's super high power emissions, and so they're probably more powerful than some of these devices. The biohacking devices, like over-the-counter kind of things, they have parameters in which they can be manufactured to be safe for the public. Um, so, however, some of these commercial transmitters are. I won't go down that.
yeah. Okay, it's interesting. It's funny that we had all these topics today or questions today about the Nobel Prize, and we talked about quantum entanglement. We talked a lot about that on prior Tech Tip Tuesdays, and we did a special Healy for Beginners and Beyond just on quantum entanglement and how that works. And yeah, that was the Nobel Prize in Physics back in, actually it was 2022
2022.
as well. But it's funny that this came up today, because today the 2025 Nobel Prize for Physics was awarded, and it wasn't for quantum entanglement, but it was in quantum physics and quantum mechanics too. So you're hearing so much more and more these days about this. And as Henry mentioned, this isn't new. The work's been going on in this space for decades. as well. And actually, there's a quote from the Nobel Prize when the award was given out today. It says, "It's wonderful to be able to celebrate the way that century-old quantum mechanics continually offers new surprises. It's also enormously useful as quantum mechanics is the foundation of all digital technology. The transistors in computer microchips are one example of the established quantum technology that surrounds us. And this year's Nobel Prize in Physics has provided opportunities for developing the next generation of quantum technology, including quantum cryptography, quantum computers, and quantum sensors." And I mean, you're going to be hearing so much more about this particular field, especially when we're talking about quantum computing as well over the next several years, 5, 10 years as well, because this is the next big thing too. And for those of us that have been with Healy for a while, when we go to our Healy Academy and we have a whole section on quantum physics and quantum entanglement, it's kind of like, yeah, this is what we're talking about.
Which we've been talking about for years now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just in Miami at the Ultimate Wellness conference, and some
Mhm.
amazing scientists and speakers and technology was there, and uh, the understanding that across the board, every speaker, every scientist, every specialist, every practitioner across the board understands and knows the entanglement of the field, the quantum field, the infinite field of intelligence. There's a field that orchestrates and permeates everything. And we're just, science is just getting better and better at looking into and quantifying, or I should say, objectifying the things we already knew, and many of us has already known. So the cool thing about that is that it's going to it solidifies some of what people used to think was woo woo, right? It's like this is
Mhm.
like Einstein said, it's spooky science at a distance, right? And so it's now actually putting I don't know, studies together to say that this is real. I mean, how many of us already knew it was real? It was already real a long time ago.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so Mary's saying that so the program transferred to the device itself, hence you could disregard the app. Yes. So as Henry said, when you look at the app and it's doing that transferring process of the program, and you see the lights on your Healy, you'll see the blue light flashing and the green light flashing very fast. It's 2 flashes per second. That means data transfer. Okay, super fast. And it's just sitting there flashing, flashing, flashing. That's data transfer. So in other words, it's loading the entire program into the memory of the Healy. Healy has a little memory in there, and it can remember one program at a time. And so it gets locked in there. Once it's locked in there, you can turn it on, set your intensity, and turn the phone off completely. And you'll see the blue light go off, but the green light will continue to flash for the entirety of the program. The timer, it will run for the time of that. Well, up to that amount of time. If it finishes before that, it'll shut off ahead of time. But the green light will tell you that it's still running. Okay. Um, you can also turn the app back on, and it will reconnect to the Healy. The blue light will start flashing again, and it will, instead of saying, you just click on the next button when it comes up to shows you a program's been running for X amount of time. Click on the next button, and it'll go right on to the program, and it'll show you right where you are in that sequence, the timing, the percentage of influence, your settings, all that will show right back up, right? Because all it's doing is the app is just connecting to Healy, looking at the program that's in the memory and giving you a readout. Remember, the app on the phone is kind of just a servant device. It's just an interface device. Healy's doing the work, right? The app is just loading the initial program and then just giving you a monitor like the screen of a TV. You can run a DVD or you can run local broadcast. The screen is just the device that's giving you the information. So is the app. It's just the device giving you information. Okay. All right. So what else do we got, guys? Um,
We got 5 minutes left, so we'll try to get the rest of these questions answered here. But there's one here about the Bluetooth range for the HighWave. So I mentioned 3 meters short 3 meters Bluetooth range. Well, when you're talking about the app, it's not the Bluetooth low energy is more than 3 meters. When we talk about 3 meters, we're usually referring to the diameter of like the MagHealy as well. But when we're talking Bluetooth, what's around 30 feet, so around 10 meters, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So remember, the Bluetooth is the way that the app communicates with the Healy. It's a wireless communication. The 3 meters we're talking about is how the Healy is transmitting a signal via the coil,
Mm.
right? So two different things here, guys. So when you're talking about the Healy and the app, that's 32 feet, 10 meters, full line of sight. It's like a walkie-talkies, talking to each other. Okay, it's a radio invisible signal that's going back and forth. But once it's transmitting, and then the Healy is working with the coil, now that's the Healy is transmitting its own signal, right, with the coil, and that is the one that's about 1 meter, a big
Mm.
big ball around you. Okay, that's what we're talking about. And
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah, all I wanted to add is that I think it would really be a matter of determining why do you feel the need to distance yourself from your phone as you are operating it? Because really the only reason why you would use your phone the only reason why you would use your phone is to launch the program. Once you do that, if you need to walk away from your phone, that is okay. So I saw that one of the things that Esmeralda said was, is there a way to increase the distance from the cell phone? So the question is, why do you want to increase the distance from the cell phone if all you really need is to use the cell phone to launch the program? Once you do that, you're welcome to walk away from the phone. That's perfectly fine. I mean, having the app open won't really do anything regarding the effectiveness of the frequencies being transmitted to you. So that would really be the question that I would ask myself in that scenario.
Well, I'm sure that maybe if you want to distance yourself from the phone because of EMF or some of the frequencies and stuff like that, yeah, the signals that you're getting from this device, from the phone itself, if you're running 5G, 2.4, which is 3G, those frequencies are because the phone does put them out in high powers, and if that's right up close to your head, that's not beneficial to your body. So further away, when you're 3 feet away from your phone, there's such small amounts of energy that can get to you that's not doing much of anything. And so, yeah, being away from your phone, as Henry said, you could just turn that phone completely off and the Healy's still going to be running. And then you don't have to worry about anything coming out of the phone. It's off. When it comes to the HighWave, the same principles apply. Once you send the program to the Healy that's attached to the HighWave, it's still a Healy. Then you could turn the phone off and have the HighWave on your body and just run it. And the same as if you were just running the Healy. So the Healy doesn't change. It's just the way you're sending the information to the body changes, right? The HighWave versus the coil versus the electrodes. Okay. All right. What else we got here?
Yeah, so
Last.
let's finish with these couple of questions here from Warren Lee, who actually wrote in advance. We mentioned how you can submit questions in advance if you can't join live. So we'll finish today's call with these here. And there's a couple of great questions. First one is in the All Healy frequency. So if you're running a resonance analysis for all Healy program groups and you get your top 5, question is it useful to run the 5 suggested groups together, or is it merely telling you to run each individual frequency separately? So I think in general, what we're talking about is you get your 5 program groups. You can, of course, vibrate those results, and it's basically vibrating the entire information field for those program groups to you. Or we usually recommend to do a deep dive. Take the top group, run an analysis for that group there too, and find which program within that group is beneficial as well. You can vibrate those, but then you can also take that specific program and then run it in the Healy 2 app with microcurrent as well to get those benefits too, rather than just through the Analyze app. And of course, you can't run in the Healy 2 app. You can't run an entire group at once. You have to pick a specific program and run that program within the group itself too. So It's useful to be able to vibrate the top groups as well, but also notes also recommended to do it, sort of dive a little bit deeper and find those top programs, which you can then run separately in the Healy 2 app.
And a reminder too that's actually what the app encourages you to do. The app, if you go to the All Healy Programs database and you click further info on this database, the app tells you that the recommended step is to do All Healy Programs, and once you get your top 5 programs, to do an additional analysis on the database for that program group that was the one with the highest priority. And then remember, you will get a little black arrow once you get your top 5 programs so that you can run them on the Healy 2 app. Now, people ask me, okay, what are the benefits? Like, should I vibrate? Should I run it on the Healy 2 app? Like, how am I going to benefit differently? Understand that the Healy 2 app, physically speaking, will have a more tangible and physical interaction with your body, because we're either going to be using microcurrent or electromagnetic fields, which we're talking about energy. We're talking about vibrating, sending positive vibrational information on the Healy Analyze 2 app. By nature, it's a less tangible phenomenon. That doesn't mean that it's not going to be as effective as microcurrent or electromagnetic fields on the Healy 2 app. But just understand, they interact differently with the body. So ideally, you want to leverage both and take advantage of both of them, both types of application.
I so much agree with that, guys. Think about this for a second. You know, when we're talking about, I mentioned this earlier, our awareness is 2,000 bits of information per second. So there's a body in space and time that is three-dimensional, and it has a mass to it, a mass, right? Tangible matter. The information field has no mass. It gets an upgrade instantly. And when we do an upgrade from the information field, it transmits down into our bioenergetic field, which is a very distinct blueprint of our nervous system. You can upregulate the nervous system in an instant, blink of an eye. Have you ever had an aha moment? That aha moment is the upregulation of your nervous system. But just because you had an aha moment about how to build a birdhouse doesn't mean you can go out there and build a birdhouse, because now the biology of moving the parts and gathering the ways of being to do that takes time. Same thing here. Bioenergetic influence, fantastic. And I highly recommend everybody, same thing. Do your analysis on the whole database, but then drill it down to a sequence of priority programs and then run them individually into your body, because you got a big bulk of information when you do the entire database and the whole grouping of programs, which influences your information field in an instant. But the body has a slower, more compact moment of influence and change. So each one of those programs will talk to the body individually, giving the body information that it can do in a short period of time, and with short amounts of bursts of information. Okay?
Yep.
Okay.
And actually, last question. I know we're a little bit over time here, just a few minutes, but I already have the information pulled up. The question was, what is the power of 3 good for, and when should it be used? So we don't have half an hour to go into all the details, but there's a ton of useful information in the Healy 2 app manual. So we've showed this a few times today already. But if you go here and go to the power of 3 section, which is page 32, I believe here, and it talks about what is this program group as well. And then you'll see details here. There's 3 different sections, because we have the bioenergetic rebalance, we have the universal frequencies, and then we have the digital Ayurveda as well. But basically what you're going to do here is go back to the top here, and you'll see it says simply use the first of the 3 program groups on Monday, the second one on Wednesday, and the third on Friday. And so it's a 9-week protocol. So there's 3 different groups, 3 programs per group. You run basically 3 weeks at a time. So it says use each program group for 3 weeks in addition to the Healy IMO programs you are currently using. So there's a lot more detail in here. There's actually studies listed here too as well. This is one of the more detailed sections within the Healy 2 app manual also. So there's a ton of great information. There's information about each of the individual programs as well, and kind of the descriptions as well are pretty good for this section also. So Check all this stuff out. Again, ton of great information, and it really helps you kind of understand how best to use this particular program group, because it is a great one.
It's a super powerful group. Just a little hint, folks, a little secret. The classical physical and the classical energetic, those are Rife systems. All those
Mhm.
frequencies in there are the Rife. And then that Zapper protocol, that's all designed from some technology around how we zap things that are bacterial or in that kind of influence.
Yeah, it says here the parasitic bioenergetic fields, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. So take a look at those guys. Super powerful stuff. The Ayurvedic influence again definitely is a full spectrum go.
The only thing I wanted to add real quick is that last question about Materia Medica. I'm just gonna make it super quick. Remember that that is a discipline that just means in Latin that means medical materials, and it's a science of studying the different substances that can be used for medicinal purposes. Now, the idea behind this is that now we don't now it's classified, at least in the Healy world, we classify it as creative homeopathy. So
Mhm.
you will find that even though it used to be called Materia Medica and it was one of the databases within the Heal Advisor Analyze 2 app, now you will find the closest thing to that is going to be the Creative Homeopathy database, which is under the resonance module for database analysis. It's going to be the third one that you find in the Heal Advisor Analyze 2 app from the top down. So that's really what it is. And again, it would be now called Creative Homeopathy.
I love it. We got a whole heck of a motivation, a whole stride going towards the end of the call. It's like we just can't
Yeah.
go now. Well, go ahead and save the chat, folks. Click on those three little dots. Get the chat for yourself. Keep that information. I'm so glad you're here. Remember, this recording will be available soon on the YouTube page that you can jump in there and revisit this again and again and again. And if we didn't get to your question, well, you better come and join us next time. How about
That's
that?
right.
So if you found value in this call, folks, please tell your friends, tell your everybody's, and let's get them on this call and see if we can help get their mysteries solved as well. Thank you guys for being here. It's the end of our call, and we'll see you next time. Ciao for now.